Greetings and welcome again to another Book of Mormon lore video. Now, the subject of this video, as you can tell, is not a figure from the Book of Mormon. This is a video on the first murderer, the first tyrant, and the first tax collector. I am, of course, speaking of Cain. Cain is an interesting figure because of the sheer diabolical nature of everything he ever did. That this is a soul that could not be redeemed if it wanted to. And that is shown in the scriptural account. But there have been far too many, shall we say, apologetic arguments for Cain, speculative stories that, maybe he wasn't the bad guy after all. No, Cain was a piece of shit. Cain, you need to understand, was one of Adam's first sons, and as a son of Adam in these early days of mankind, he had the rights to Adam's priesthood. He had the right to officiate sacrifice. He had the right to be involved in the business of the Lord. As an early patriarch, this was his purview, his right, his authority. But that wasn't enough for Cain. Cain chose a far, far darker path. And it doesn't begin with killing his brother. No. You see, in the accounts that I'm familiar with, Cain had a relationship with Satan and Lucifer long before the killing of his brother. In fact, despite being given the power and authority from his father Adam, he openly chose to serve Satan over the Lord for pretty much all of his adult life. And that's where it begins. See, the reason that Cain's offering was rejected wasn't because God preferred a steak to a salad. No. The reason that his offering was rejected wholesale was because the very reason he offered it was because Satan had commanded he make that offering to the Lord. So even from the start, this is an insane mess. So what happens from there is Cain is angry that the Lord refuses his half-assed offering based on ill intentions, to say the least. So Cain, being pissed off that his offering wasn't accepted, then makes another deal with Lucifer, saying, I am angry. And Satan says, yeah, I know you're angry, so here's what we're going to do about it. You're going to swear to me by your life that you will not tell anyone what you're about to do. Do it in secret, keep it quiet, don't tell anyone. And if you simply keep your mouth shut, I'll give you everything that Abel has. And Cain really liked this idea. This was novel. I mean, you had his father's, holy order on this on one hand, and here he was about to create something new, something that the world hadn't seen before. He's going to create an entirely different order, an entirely different scheme of things. He's going to have his own society. Well, that doesn't play out very well, because it turns out that when you murder someone in cold blood for the first time, there are consequences. See, it wasn't bad enough that when men died, or that when a man died and his blood hits the ground, that the earth could simply accept that someone had died. No, no. This was the blood of an innocent man. And I speculate profoundly on this, because murder has happened throughout all of history since Cain. And the curse that God heaps upon Cain is so traumatic, it's not repeated anywhere. And it's really given me pause to wonder why. You see, when Cain slew Abel, God put a curse on him that said, essentially, you know all that power and dominion I gave Adam as a human being and as a man to rule over this earth, to be able to grow plants and have communion with animals and to be able to farm and have agriculture and all that stuff. I'm taking that from you. I'm taking a piece of your humanity away from you because of what you've done. Now, I'm not a murderer, and I'm not quite sure how that works today, but I'm pretty certain that if you go and kill someone, you're not going to suddenly lose your green thumb. But that was the case with Cain. Cain lost that right and power when he slew his brother, and God placed that curse upon him. And my only theory as to why is that the reason is that when the earth opened her mouth and tasted the blood of an innocent man, it changed the earth. It changed the earth from a place where it was survival of the righteous to a place where we are now, and where it's survival of the fittest. And I'm not sure it was meant to be that way. I'm not sure that if Cain had slain, I apologize. I'm not sure if Abel had been able to slay Cain, if that curse would have been heaped upon Abel, because it would have preserved the integrity of the project, so to speak. So we get to the point where Cain has slain Abel. He is, and he's reveling in it. He is absolutely enjoying this moment. The blood is on his hands, and he is exultant. And then, and he says quite bluntly, I have killed Abel, and surely all of his flocks are mine. So, the Lord curses Cain, marks him, says, stay away from this particular piece of shit, and sends Cain on his way. Here's the real gist of that. Cain doesn't go quietly. He wanders off into the land of Nod, and then Cain does something marvelous and depraved. This man who cannot even farm his own food, and if you take that even further, he probably couldn't even feed his own flocks. He lacked the ability to call upon the earth to maintain his own sustenance and his own household. He lost his income and the way to put food on his table. And yet somehow, a man in this predicament went off to the land of Nod and built a city. Now, if you're like me, you have to wonder, how the hell does that happen? Well, the simple answer is Cain never changed. Cain never grew beyond that initial moment of, hey, I want what's yours, give it to me now. And so the only way for someone in this position to build a city is if he was openly taking those resources from others. So there are a few options. Cain and his family and their cohorts and their friends who were in on this secret of killing to get gain either formed an army or got a bunch of people around and said, we're building a city and you work for us now. Cain, unironically, is both the first murderer, the first mob boss, and almost de facto, if you really, really think about it. Extortion from the state is called taxation. Cain was the first tax collector. Cain invented taxes. Let that sink in. And the reason he had to invent taxes was because there was no other way for him to exist. If he was not taking what he needed by force, he would starve and die. Or, alternatively, be reliant on the charity of others. Others who, by this point in time, knew that he was a murderous piece of shit. And so here we have Cain. and what's truly sad is it seems like the majority of humanity has taken Cain's model for civilization and just ran with it. Nearly every civilization since has required or demanded or has de facto declared that in order for it to maintain itself, it needed to tax those that it claimed to be caring for. And we have followed that pattern up until 1776, when a bunch of vagabond, enlightened founders decided that they were going to make their own government in revolt against taxation without representation. And for the longest time in American history, up until fairly recently, there was no federal tax. And yet, we still had our roads. We still had everything that we needed. But it needs to be remembered where that idea that taxation is necessary for society to flourish, we need to remember where that idea comes from. It comes from Cain. It comes from allowing bureaucrats to lord above you while contributing nothing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true and honest legacy of Cain on this earth. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys again. God bless and stay carnal.